beautiful. So we've just seen an incredible late Renaissance palace that was the home of a very famous and beautiful lady, Bianca Capello, Venetian born and who moved to Florence when she was very young. And it was also the theater of a very scandalous love story. And I would like to tell you about this love story because Bianca was unpaired, known all over Florence and actually all over Italy for her grace and beauty. And she came from a very important Venetian family. Unfortunately, the family was broke. And when she was only 16, she met a man, this is early 1560s in Venice, who tricked her and convinced her to move to Florence. And he actually made her think that he was wealthier and of a high social status. But she really fell for him. So she came to Florence and she started living a very sad life, like she felt in prison and she felt she was living a life of squalor. However, she still loved her man and she was faithful to him and she followed his advice. At some point, somehow, a few years after she was here, so we're still in the early 1560s, she was introduced to the Medici court. And during these meetings, she met Francis I, who was the son of the Duke of Florence and Tuscany, called him the First. And he was a very peculiar, intelligent, clever man, a bit shy, sophisticated, and he immediately fell for her. And they began an incredible love story that lasted for decades, even though Francis had to get married in 1565 to Joan of Austria, who was part of the family of the emperor, so a very prestigious wedding. But Francis never hid the love that he had for Bianca, and shortly after she became his mistress, he started flaunting her around everywhere. And his father advised him to be more careful. People were gossiping all over Florence about it. Bianca was hated. People didn't like her, didn't understand where she was coming from. Ferdinand, the younger brother of Francis, actually hated Bianca and started spreading rumors against her. But the two lovers went on. And after the first wife of Francis died, Joan, he actually married Bianca, first in secret, because he actually married her only 2 months after his wife died, so it was not appropriate at all. And then publicly, and they moved here to the residence of the Medici family, Palazzo Pitti. Now, the beautiful Renaissance palace that we saw, Palazzo Bianca Cappello, was actually built because Francis wanted Bianca to move close to him. So in the early 1570s, he asked the architect and scenographer and inventor Bernardo Bontalenti to build this palace in this manieristic late Renaissance style. And shortly after, this facade with the grotesque was added. But the peculiarity of this palace is that there's a legend, we're not really sure about it, that there was a secret corridor underground that would connect the Pitti residence, the residence of the Medici family, to the palace where Bianca lived. So the two lovers could meet anytime they wanted during day and night. Okay, so imagine, this is really something that people were gossiping about because everybody knew that they were, very public lovers. Now, Bianca then moved to the residency. She married the Grand Duke and she became also a duchess. And the two of them had a strong bond and died under mysterious circumstances in 1587. Not here. They were outside in the countryside in one of the Medici's villas, the Villa Poggiacaiano, a beautiful villa. And there's a mystery behind their death. Some people think they died of malaria and they actually poisoned themselves trying to cure themselves. Other people believe that the younger brother of Francis actually poisoned them. However, they died like just a few hours from each other. What is amazing is that Francis was a very careful man. So the fact that he kept flaunting his mistress for many years, because she was his official mistress for more than 10 years before they got married, it's very peculiar for a personality like his. And probably the reason is because the two of them were not only bonded by passion and love, but they had actually a spiritual connection. Now, both of them were magicians and were alchemists. Francis would spend hours in his laboratory trying to create gold and making alchemic discoveries. And this is why probably the two of them really were always connected. And in fact, going back to the beautiful facade of the palace of Bianca Capello, there is actually exoteric readings of the grotesque, of the images, that tells a story of the two lovers, the two souls, Bianca and Francis, and you have to start reading it from the sides of the facade, and there's a path, a magical path, that comes together and join the two souls. So in a way, I think it's also very beautiful, because looking at the facade, and if you know how to read it, you can read a everlasting love story that is still playing up in the open for the public to read. So a scandalous love affair, but still today it's really a symbol of an incredible love story that people can see and read.